Death Note, an anime known for its mind games and interesting plot progression. It's basically impossible to be an anime watcher and not at least know of Death Note. It still upholds the title as the #1 most viewed anime, according to my anime list, which is most likely not true, but impressive nonetheless. The point being, there's no way I wouldn't make a video about it at some point, so without further ado, let's get right into it. First off, let's take a look at the soundtrack Low of Solipsism. This theme is often played during high tension moments of Light using the Death Note. A common thing you'll notice when looking at Death Note's soundtrack is that often a line of Latin chanting is going on in the background. In this particular theme is the phrase Kira Deus Vici, which roughly translates to something like "Our enlightened God, Kira, will be victorious," which is pretty self-explanatory when you consider the usage of this theme, being when Light uses the Death Note, hence his godly powers as Kira. The Latin chanting is also used in other themes, one of them being another one of Light's themes, with the chanting translating to "Our King of Glory, Lord Kira." Let's take a quick look at the name of the theme. The theme is called Low of Solipsism. Now the word solipsism is not an often used word, but when you delve into the meaning, it's quite obvious why it's used. The word solipsism comes from the Latin solus, which means alone, and ipse, which means self. The word is defined as the idea that only your own mind truly exists, that only your mind is important. In extreme cases, it can even get to the conclusion that no other mind except for yours is true. Overall, it boils down to a feeling of selfishness and feelings of being superior, which is very fitting for a theme used alongside godly powers and a god complex. Next, let's take a look at the theme Kyrie, which is arguably one of the most iconic soundtracks Death Note has to offer, besides L's theme, but we'll get around to that. It's often used in times when Light has the upper hand and is executing one of his plans. The Latin chanting is sung in a way that makes it seem very high and mighty, very holy, which is probably once again referring to Light's god complex and his self-satisfaction when he executes a plan and ends up having the upper hand, feeling like the god he wants to become. Once again, let's take a quick look at the name of the theme. The name of the theme is Kyrie. It comes from the Greek, whatever this is pronounced like, and it's an iconic prayer from Christianity, which then leads us to the Latin chanting once again. I swear, Death Note's soundtrack is mostly meaningful names in Latin chanting. Anyway, the Latin chanting translates to "God have mercy, Christ have mercy," which is, funnily enough, also the chanting of the original Christian prayer. Outside of it being taken from a prayer, this is symbolizing how Light wants people to revere and fear him as the one true God, and how he wants those beneath him to beg for mercy. Also, a fun thing to note is that, as I mentioned, this theme is mostly used when Light has the upper hand or is in the middle of executing a plan. Now, the very first thing we hear when we play the soundtrack is a bell ringing. Does it ring any bells? At the very end of L's life, he said to Light, "Do you hear the bells?" Now, of course, this wasn't referring specifically to this soundtrack, but it's still a very nice interaction. Next, we'll get to the correlation between L and Light's theme. First off, L's theme. Ah yes, the nostalgic, catchy tune. The thing about L's theme is that it's really only repeating a couple of lines at first. However, because the theme is made to be very suspenseful as well as made to fit L's character, it doesn't really feel boring or overdone at all. L's theme is very quiet, logical, and emotionless, just as L. However, this is only in the first part of the theme. We can easily correlate how L's theme evolves with how the story progresses. Let me explain. We start out seeing L being very cold and methodical, just like at the start of his theme, repeating known patterns. As we get later into the show, L gets forced to use tactics he would otherwise not utilize. This is shown in the theme when L's normal methodical outlook, hence the normal piano play, gets interrupted with heavy guitar and drums, showing us L's unstable and uncertain side caused by being pressured. Then, on the other hand, we have Light. From the get-go, we get a guitar-based theme, which sometimes erupts into sort of a screeching sound. This, already at the start, tells us that Light is willing to take more risks, as L's theme starts off being pretty much all the same, while Light's theme starts off with fluctuations. Just like L's theme, Light's also has a few spikes where the music becomes more intense, but it never moves away from the basis that it started out with, unlike L's. Meaning that Light as a person is more willing to go for a risk, but doesn't like doing something that directly put him in danger, that put him out of his comfort zone. Aside from their themes telling something about them as individuals, it also tells us something about them as a pair. The first thing you'll notice when you listen to the two themes back to back is that it follows a very similar rhythmic structure. The only difference is being L's is a bit quicker in most aspects, and of course then the fact that the two themes are written in very different keys. As a result, if you play the tracks back to back without altering anything, it sounds pretty horrendous. I mean, listen to this. You'd have to alter a lot of things to actually make them fit together completely. But then again, L and Light are not the same person. They're just similar people. Which is why their themes are similar, but not exact copies in different styles. There's one point where the two tracks sound pretty good together though, and that's when Light's theme goes into screeching guitar. That's the one point where the difference in keys don't really matter, as Light's theme holds one continuous tone, while L's theme works its magic in the background. Overall, a lot of the Death Note soundtracks, especially the themes revolving around Light, are very much guitar-based or church-themed, with Latin chanting and bells. However, there is one exception, and that exception is the track Taikutsu. First off, this track is very different from the rest of the Death Note soundtrack. It has more of a modern feel to it, with it being mostly just a simplistic beat. This track is heavily inspired by the song Turquoise Hexagon Sun. Let's listen to a bit of a comparison. Now, this is not necessarily a bad thing, but it is pretty obvious to see the correlation. The name Taikutsu literally translates to boredom. Now, if this is supposed to be an indication of when the track is used, or if it's supposed to be a jab at modern simplistic beats, who knows? Anyway, that's about it for this video. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe, whatever you're feeling up to, and I'll see y'all in the next video.